All right, good afternoon. How's it going, everyone?
Good, how you doing?
Living the dream, man.
Hey,
How's it going?
Good, man. Going well. Going well.
Just got back from Florida. Got an opportunity to do some networking in Jake and Gino's multifamily mastery. Got an opportunity to walk a couple of projects in Kissimmee and Orlando. And yeah, the movement is growing. Glad to see we got some plans printed off. Ethan's kind of focusing his camera on the Garnet and Inn and Suites, which is not a 186, but a 192 key hotel that we're converting into efficiency studio apartments.
Yeah, me and Max are here at the Office Depot. We paid like $50, got the plan set made. We're gonna go and turn it into the city first thing in the morning, and so we're super excited. We paid 12 grand to our architect, and he rushed and expedited this plan set and flew down from Charleston to measure this building on a 2-day notice with his whole team and turn around a set of plans within next to no time whatsoever. So we're super excited about that, ready to get this application for the rezoning submitted.
Let's go.
very nice.
Yeah. So we host this call every week. Been doing it close to a year now. Every Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific, we look at distressed commercial assets and different asset classes. Our specialty is hospitality to multifamily, and we just kind of kicked off a project that Ethan was just showcasing. We'll convert hospitality to multifamily, office to multifamily, and distressed retail to self-storage. So if you have a deal or something that you're interested in, you can either schedule a private one-on-one call with myself and my team, where we'll kind of walk through the opportunity, or we can put the opportunity up on this call. We do ask that any properties that we do share on this call that you don't circumvent for obvious reasons. Each individual around the country is always looking to kind of build out their portfolio. So with that in mind, we ask that anyone that has an opportunity or a project that would like to be presented on this call, that we don't circumvent. We work together as a community, we learn as a community, and this is our focus. We buy distressed commercial assets and we convert them to their highest and best use. So with that being said, on the call, let's see here, as far as my team, we got Ethan from Hydra Capital, Nick Routson. He is specializing in distressed retail to self-storage. He's on the call today. We also have, let's see here, my famous assistant, Christina. She's been working with me now for almost 3 years. She tees up these opportunities. We have access to CoStar, we pull analytics, we pull pro forma, we look at market rents, and we do kind of a quick back of napkin underwriting, determine whether or not it's something worth pursuing. And it's a knowledge learning opportunity for everyone. My goal is to convert 100 of these distressed assets in the next 3 years, and we're well on our way and on pace to do so. So we have some larger projects like the Ricci Towers, which is a 486,000 square foot office complex that we're converting into about 500 apartments, down to our smallest project, which is a 77 key hotel, the Roadway Inn in Kissimmee, Florida. So we touch anything and everything in between. We like to focus in on projects that are around 50,000 square feet or better. We want to see at least 100 keys or greater. By doing so, you're able to get on-site property management, and of course the economies of scale just make sense. Plus, not to mention, typically a larger asset is going to have services like a restaurant. They're going to have some meeting space. They're going to have some additional square footage that we can convert to either bolster the NOI or add some sticky for the tenant base to add some additional amenities. So that's kind of our sweet spot. As far as locations, we'll look at anything across the country. We personally like to be in Central Florida, We like to be in Texas for obvious reasons. We like to be in Arizona. We like to be in the Carolinas. Typically red states, landlord-friendly states for obvious reasons. It makes it a little easier to attract investor capital when you have a project in Central Florida, where Florida is growing on average between 1,200 and 1,500 persons per day. And again, our focus is workforce housing, affordable housing, typically micro units. There's a need for that type of space, and that's what we're looking to fill. Any questions before we jump into some of the projects that we're looking at? I see a hand raised.
Yeah, just quick question. I appreciate it, Stephen. One thing, I was on one of the tours for the hotel to multifamily conversion. I think that's awesome. One thing I'm not familiar with, distressed retail to self-storage. Are you talking just like a retail strip center or something like that? Just convert that into self-storage? I haven't heard of that sort of niche. Just any information would be, appreciated.
So what do you think has happened to Kmart?
So big box like retail. I see. Okay, that makes way more.
Yeah. So what do you think has happened to JCPenney, Sears, right? So you got these big box retailers, and the advent to online shopping and businesses like Amazon have put a lot of these larger big box retailers, brick and mortars, out of business. So you can acquire these assets in most cases for pennies on the dollar. And prior to closing, we want to make sure that we have the contingency period necessary for us to do the change of use in all cases.
Fantastic. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. I just, that didn't click for me. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
No, my pleasure. And there's no such thing as a bad question. The only bad questions are the questions that are not asked. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in. We want to make this kind of conversational, right? I don't want to do all the speaking. Ethan just put a note out there. Typically our minimum requirements for room sizes are going to be 250 square feet on these hotel rooms. For obvious reasons, the big play is stabilizing into perm debt and getting, attractive financing for these conversions. In order to meet those guidelines, we want to see hotel rooms be at a minimum of 250 square feet.
Ideally, we want to see them in the 300s though, right? The average that I like to see, just for obvious reasons, is like 320 to 350 and above. Just because once you start getting below that like 275 square footage mark, it starts to get really tight in there. And, it's not necessarily an ideal play. It's still doable, right? But it makes a lot more level. It provides a lot more level of comfort when you have these larger units. And so usually, for example, on both properties that we're doing here in Orlando, the average square footage is well above 300. And so, that's ideal. There are some units, for example, in the Garnet Inn and Suites that are approximately, 256 square feet, but there's only about 24 of them. And so that is workable, right? And so if you've got this, small hotel with like this 11 by 24, unit layout, and that's all that there is, yes, it's doable. And there was a Ramada that I toured in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it penciled really, really well. But the question was, do we really, really want to do a hotel where every single unit is that small, right? So generally, you like to see at least other unit mix sizes beyond the small 250. I know Sage, for example, their property, the one they're doing right next to us, Stephen, is all 275 square feet, and they're still moving forward with that. So again, it's not out of the picture. I just personally like to see those larger units. So it's just depending on what you want to do.
Yeah, and just to bolt on to that, it's not only the size, but typically you're renting by the square foot, right? So if your cost per square foot is between, say, $3 to $3.50, if you have a smaller unit, it's going to be really difficult to get that deal to pencil. Because keep in mind, when you're doing these conversions, your CapEx is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of between $20,000 and $30,000 per door. Because you're adding kitchenettes, you're adding sprinklers, you're going to be updating the flooring, you're going to be pretty much more than likely going to like a base of the studs type of conversion. So that CapEx basically is pretty substantial. And so in order to get that deal to pencil, you want to see your rents to be somewhere north of $900 per unit. All right, so we're going to jump right into it. Christina, you want to go ahead and share your screen, or we'll go through a couple of assets that we're currently looking at that we've submitted offers on. And this will kind of give you an idea of what we do day to day. We review opportunities across the country. And you'll find these projects, through LoopNet, Crexi, broker relationships. There's many different ways to find these opportunities. We typically try to leverage broker relationships when we can. This particular project is the Howard Johnson in Claremont, Florida. And as you can see by the picture, we got some water out there in the distance. Looks like we have, possibly a mobile home park / single family in the distance. So there's a good chance that we'll be able to do a change of use here. This is a closed property by the looks of the roof and the asset. It looks like it's heavily distressed, but it doesn't mean it's going to scare us away. Let's go ahead and go to the property summary. Next page. So here we pull these properties down from CoStar. Those who don't have access to CoStar, it's a pretty expensive tool. We like to leverage our membership to individuals that join these calls. So if you guys have a property that you'd like us to pull analytics on, send an email to Christina. Christina put her email address in the chat. You want to simply send her an email. She will pull that information, start the underwriting process. And again, if you want to keep the property confidential and want to do a one-off underwriting session with myself and the team, we can certainly do so. Or you can simply put this up on the call where we can review it as a collaborative group. So first and foremost, we like to take kind of a 10,000 square foot overview of the property in question. This property has 198 keys. It's a 2-story exterior corridor hotel. It's on just under 5 acres, zoning C3, which it allows for multifamily. Looks like, it's on sale for $5 million. Doesn't have information on the amount of parking spaces. Typically, we'd like to see 1.5 spaces per door. Typically, most conversions or hotels that being converted won't have that number of parking, so we're gonna have to, typically leverage some type of variance for the city. So here is a high-level overview of the property in Lakeland, Winter Haven submarket of Florida. Next slide. Here are some pictures of the asset in question. As you can see, like most hospitality assets, it's going to have great frontage. It's along a major thoroughfare. I was right. It does look like there's a mobile home park kind of adjacent to the property in question. Looks like it's a kind of a C+ market. Again, could be a good potential for conversion. We do have an offer out on this property, and we're in negotiations as we speak. And let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Here's the location. So there's the subject property along the US 192. You got Walt Disney World World Parks, not too far away. Epcot. We got lots of amenities, lots of business opportunities. The economy is very strong in this area. So certainly it's something that we definitely pay attention to. Next slide. And here's the analytics. This is, the next step. Typically when looking at a conversion opportunity, we want to take, first and foremost, like real estate, location. So we want to see, most importantly, how many units are being absorbed in this market on an annual basis. So the 12-month absorption in this particular market is outstanding at 1,908 doors. So if we were to release, say 100, 200 apartments in this market, we know we could possibly lease these up between the next 3 to 6 months. And
I just want to put it out there real quick. The other comps in this area, I was just talking to somebody about the Teal Apartments. They brought that online. It was like 148 units. They leased it all up in 2 months, right? In this particular submarket. It is crazy what is happening in Central Florida, specifically the Orlando and suburban Orlando markets, because there is just a sheer lack of housing for the influx of what's happening there. But I just wanted to add that. Sorry for interrupting, Stephen.
And that basically speaks volumes right there, Ethan. Fourth line down, population growth in the next 5 years. you know, what we typically like to see is a population growth between 3 and 5% in a decent market. This is showing 11.9%, which is, you know, 3-4x greater than a typical average market. So this is a super hot market. Exit price per door at $276,000 is outstanding. Typically, we want to buy a hotel where we're picking it up for like 20 cents on the dollar, or at least 20% of the exit price per door. This is probably 2 to 3x that. And the next thing we look at is, you know, the actual market rents. Studios are going for $1,543, so we can confidently rent a micro unit for around $1,350 to $1,400 in that market, which is about $400 to $500 more than what we consider an average. Any questions on the analytics from the audience and what we look for? So again, first and foremost, we want to look at population growth and absorption. If it doesn't meet those metrics, we more than likely will discard the opportunity. The next two things we look at, we look at rents and we look at exit price per door. And fifth and final, we want to make sure that the market is converter friendly. So if it checks these 4 boxes, we'll then reach out to city planning, have conversations with the planning department, figure out A, is the zoning going to allow for a conversion to multifamily? And of course, B, you know, what's that timeline look like? And then we can have that conversation with the seller once we develop the inroads with the city planning department. Ethan, do you have something you want to bolt onto that?
Yeah. Quick question. Which county is this in? Is this in Polk County or is this in Osceola County?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I want to say this is in Polk County.
Okay, good.
Because this is in Lake County, as I have checked in with the city. Yeah, Lake County.
Yeah,
perfect. Because I saw it was right off of 192, and obviously, as you know, some of the impact fees are higher, right? As we discussed earlier today. So that's excellent.
All right, so let's go ahead and look at the underwriting. Let's go to the next slide. Before we do so, we're going to look at the
I got a
market rent.
question about that absorption rate.
Yes, let's go back to that slide, Christina, for the
So
analytics.
is the absorption rate strictly for studios, or
No,
is that
it's all apartments, basically your studios, 1, 2s, and 3 bedrooms.
okay?
So it's the number of doors that are being absorbed in that market on an annual basis, or they call it a 12-month absorption of units.
Hey, Steven.
Thank you.
Hey, quick question. Yeah, going back to the parking aspect, have you found across the different cities, municipalities you've worked for, getting a variance is fairly simple for that aspect?
Simple is not necessarily a good descriptive. You know, you're going to want to have a very strong argument. You're going to have, you know, basically have to put forth the case that these are micro units. In most cases, where our emphasis is on workforce housing. So the individuals leasing these units, more than likely about 50 to 75% won't even own a vehicle. Sure. And they're heavily dependent on public transportation, which ironically enough, most of these hotels are usually on major thoroughfares and are very close to bus stops. We just submitted plans for the Garnet in Orlando, and ironically enough, there was not just 1, but 2 bus stops right across. And there's actually 2 right down the road. So there's 4 bus stops within a 60-second walk from hypothetically your studio apartment.
Got it.
And
okay,
real
that's
quick,
helpful.
Just to add to that, right? It really depends on the municipality that you're working with. Like, Stephen, you can attest to this quite a bit, but some municipalities are more lenient on these hotel conversions and the parking variances than others. Like, for example, if you go to Altamont Springs, oh boy, man, the city there is just not having it when it comes to these hotel conversions for many different factors. Like, for example, they have on their square footage minimums, they require that the minimum square footage is at least 500 square feet with an average project square footage of 750. And in that circumstance, you're needing to combine 3 hotel rooms into 1 just to get the project done. It doesn't work. But also for parking, they just don't like these concepts. It's, you know, they'd rather see these hotels torn down and something new built, and don't really understand how business works really. And so
Yeah.
they, just won't approve you. Whereas in like in Orange County, they just released their Vision 2050 redevelopment comprehensive, future land use plan, which talks about integrating parts of the Live Local Act, SB 102, which is a new state law that went into effect in Florida that essentially just makes it much easier to build these housing types projects and affordable housing projects. And so they're very open to having conversations. And so even if you don't necessarily meet the required 1 to 1.5 parking, or sometimes even 1 to 2 ratio, and I have seen 1 to 1.25, but it's very uncommon, then you can apply for a waiver or a variance through your application, and you can see what their response is, and you can only go from there, right? It's very much so I wouldn't say a flip of the coin, but you have to work very closely.
It's a case by case basis. Yeah, it's a case by case basis. Yeah, you need to have those conversations with city planning. So most importantly, you want to, first and foremost, figure out if it's something worth pursuing. Does it have, the population growth? Does it have the absorption, of units? Is the exit price going to justify the CapEx necessary for the conversion? Are the rental rates going to be able to shore up the amount of money necessary to do the raise, to do the CapEx? If the rents are sub $900, more than likely it's not going to pencil.
Makes sense.
Let's
Cool,
go on
appreciate
to the
that,
next slide. Yeah, no, my pleasure. Thanks for the question. So we usually go to use renter meter, and we'll basically pull, kind of rents in the area, just kind of give an idea of what the market looks like. Again, this is kind of a high level overview. I employ everyone that, don't take this as being gospel, but this is kind of a gauge. And a lot of times this information is either outdated, 6 months, 9 months behind the bell curve. And so it gives us an indicator of where rents are going, and it gives us an indicator of what we could potentially underwrite this deal for. So if you look at these particular comps, you'll see that these properties are located fairly close to the subject property. And you'll see that we typically like to pull studios for obvious reasons. We're doing a hotel room to studio apartment conversion. So we're not so concerned with 1 bedrooms. We're not so concerned with 2 bedrooms for obvious reasons. But most importantly, make sure that when you're looking at rent comps, that you're looking at the cost per square foot for that lease, and not necessarily taking a studio, a traditional size studio, and using that as your rental comp, because more than likely your number is going to be off. So you can see here, your square footages are fairly similar to what you would see on a typical hotel room, 350, 360. What I'll do is I'll take all, say, 6 or 7 of these studios, add them up, divide by 6 or 7. That'll give me my average cost per square foot. And you can see that we're in the low 3s. And I believe we underwrote this at about $3.25 per square foot. Again, these apartments are going to be slightly smaller than what you see here. And so therefore we can justify a slightly higher price per square foot. But we also don't want to inflate our rents. We don't want to push the deal forward. We want the deal to lead us forward. And so here's our sample listings used for our rent comps. Any questions on rental comps? All right, let's go to the next slide.
Even what was the service you used? Which service for rental?
Rentometer. And you can,
Rentometer.
so basically, if you want to do it the cheap way, you can get a free account and have free, like 3 free reports pulled, but it's $79 a year. And you can pull unlimited, pro reports, which basically gives you the full detailed report of what's the property address, what is the subject, is it a studio, 1 bedroom, what's the square footage, and what's the rent. And something I will add to that, Stephen, just to kind of add my perspective, is when you're pulling data from Rentometer, you do have to look very carefully and closely at the square footage, because if you've got a 700 square foot studio and it's renting for 1,100, you're probably not going to get 1,100 for your 350 square foot studio, unless you're absolutely just, extremely lucky in that market. But we don't like to do stuff off of luck, right? So you want to identify realistically, what are similar comps in that area renting for. So I noticed when you pulled that up that it's close to $1,100 for a 350, to 400 roughly square foot studio, which is, I'm assuming, how you underwrote the deal, because I personally haven't seen the underwriting for this deal yet. But that is, it was a clear indication that there was something else in the area, not identical, but very similar to this particular asset that we could use as a comp.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide. And here's our underwriting. We underwrote these studios at $1,050 per unit. We went in at a asking price at 4.25. The seller was hoping to get 5 million. So asking price 5 million. We have it under LOI for 4.25. Property's been closed for 10 years. There's probably a high potential for a retrade here. More than likely, we're going to have to do some roof work, some interior work. That's going to be greater than what we initially probably underwrote this for, but I think we're fairly confident at the 4.25. And here are the returns. So net profit levered a little over $11 million with a 32.7% IRR and a 3.33x multiplier and 91.1% capital refi and returned to our investors by year 2 upon refi. We're looking at holding for approximately 63 months and selling this and exiting at around 27 million or $139,000 per micro studio. If you look at the previous analytics slide, you see that traditional 1 and 2 bedroom apartments are trading for around $250,000 to $275,000. I would caution that we don't want to necessarily use that number as far as trading, because these are micro units. So I'm confident that we can conservatively exit at around $150,000 per door. In this case, we have this at a 5 cap at $139,000 a door. So we will let you know how this transpires. We're excited about this opportunity. We'll keep you updated on how this develops. Stay tuned. We always like to provide updates on deals that we're working on. And that way you can see how this kind of goes through that evolutionary journey on each opportunity. Any questions?
Yes,
One-
I have a question. So,
Sure.
I understand that this is being recorded. Is there a way to watch this later?
Yeah, in fact, if you wanted to send out your email address and contact information in the chat, those who are part of this meeting, feel free to do so, and I'll have my assistant Christina send out a recording. So provide your contact information, email address, and we'll send out the copy of this recording so you guys can listen at your convenience. You guys can't stay for the entire call. We understand that everyone's pretty busy, but that's a way we can get the recording out to you.
I also wanted to say something here real quick. If anybody wants to go on a tour when we're doing any of these places, if it's Kissimmee, Orlando again, or any of these places coming up, let us know. We'd be glad to bring you on a tour as well. A lot of people are putting in earnest money, coming in, and also bringing in capital or whatever it is. But let us know how we can help. We have a really solid team on this too. So if you guys have any questions, let any of us on here know. Steven, Ethan, myself. I know Max Ram spent the last couple of days with Ethan. He's like, man, you guys are awesome, man. He's like, Steven and Ethan and you, but very thorough. I mean, we had an hour and a half long call with our architect. Not many architects will get on the phone, get on Zoom call with you for an hour and a half and everything else. And actually he didn't even get paid, I think, until today, what it was. And he's done a lot of work for us, but I mean, really solid team. Oh, go ahead, Ethan.
Very solid team. I was just saying, it's due to the ability to have cool partners like this guy right here, Max, who came in at the last second with a $75,000 wire, which is being used for earnest money and risk capital for us to pursue these hard costs, like paying the architect, paying the attorney, paying the engineer, the traffic study engineer, and all associated permitting fees. And so those of you who are on the call who went to the tour that we did in Kissimmee and the one in Garnet Inn and Suites, you know very well how we position our earnest money and risk capital sponsors. But if you'd like to find ways to get involved with us, we're very open to having those conversations, but we'd prefer to have them in one-on-one conversations. So reach out to Ryan, reach out to me, reach out to Steve if you'd like to get involved in that capacity, because we're doing some, a lot of cool stuff down here in Central Florida, and we'd be excited to see how we can work together.
And if you guys ever want to meet me and talk about how we do our asset management, how we do our calls, we have 17 assets now, and we were leading 2 of the calls. Now I think we're leading about 10 of the calls. So again, my business partner is in Orlando. I know some of these assets are in different locations too, but it's really important to be on asset management with an experienced team, experienced operators, experienced people that are partners of project management and construction management. But it's a really solid team. And don't ask us. Look us up, look the partners up, and ask other people that are investing with us. Ask people that go on these tours. But it's been a fun journey. I'm very excited to close on numerous deals with the same team members. It was great meeting Steve in person. Been talking to him for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. But we hung out a good bit in Orlando with Ethan and everything else. But yeah, I mean, I've been talking to these same group, the same people on here, and the more people that are investing with us, like, man, you know how Ethan is very thorough and this and that. And how old is he? And I'm like, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm amazed at how young he is and how he knows. But yeah, just being on these calls. And if you guys ever want to be on these calls too, to listen to them, if you guys are wanting to invest something, feel free to be on one of these calls with some listen. It goes real well. But if you guys have any questions, come down here in Clearwater. I mean, I'd be glad to talk with you, get on a phone call, Zoom, or anything else. But a great team we have here.
You guys are also welcome to come join me
Let's
at
look at
the
the next
office
property.
in Orlando if you want to help get architectural plans done like Max did.
All right, let's keep on rolling. Let's look at the next opportunity.
Hey guys, do you have any projects that are under construction right now or completed that are available to look at?
Yeah, in fact, my first 3 in Jacksonville, Florida, we're doing a ribbon cutting ceremony February 24. So I bought the Days Inn, the America's Best, and the Zen Living, so 334 keys to be converted into 341 studio apartments. And we've already started pre-leasing these micro studios. Once we have the actual date and time for the ribbon cutting ceremony, I will proliferate that out to all the different Facebook groups I'm a member to, and I'll share that with the community, and anyone who wants to come out and actually see a finished product, you're more than welcome to join. The mayor is going to be there. The police chief is going to be there. We've received lots of positive press from the community because not only are we generating generous returns on these projects, but we're also cleaning up the community. We're providing affordable housing. So it really checks a lot of the really important boxes. All right, let's go look at our next project. Christina, you want to put that up on the screen? All right, so we went from Florida, Central Florida, and now we're out to Omaha, Nebraska. So here's a really unique property. This is an all-suite hotel. So as we were talking about room sizes, typically they're anywhere between 275 to 325. All these rooms are 500 square feet each, which is your typical standard studio. So really excited about this potential opportunity. This is the Trademark Collection by Wyndham. It's the Azkaban Suites, excuse me, as I trip over my verbiage there, located at 7270 Cedar Street in Omaha, Nebraska. Let's go on to the next slide. Here's a property summary. So property was open literally 1 month before I was born. I was born in January 73. This was open in December 73. So I just aged myself. This is a franchise. In most cases, these hotels will be franchised. We will ask the operator to release the flag at the seller's cost when looking to do these conversions. This particular property is temporarily closed. It was renovated in 2023, so I'm kind of curious why the property went through a level of renovations and is still temporarily closed. There could be a possibility that they're in the process of reopening and they just have not really seen the hospitality base to support the opening. And so therefore now they're considering putting this on the market, which it is. 186 rooms. It's a 6-story hotel with interior corridors. It does have some meeting space, looks like about 2,160 square feet of meeting space. Parking is at 200 surface spaces or 1.08 per hotel room. So we would certainly probably have to ask for a variance in order for us to get what we're looking for as far as parking goes. It's on 3.71 acres, zone CC. Did find out that there is a possibility to, it is capable to be zoned for multifamily. It looks like it was sold back in 2013 for $10.3 million. And it currently is on the market for $7 million. and we have it under LOI for much less, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Next slide. So here are some photographs of the asset in question. Looks like it has an interior courtyard, which would be a great amenity space for tenants. Again, this is an all-suite hotel, so larger rooms, which will be certainly very attractive to a tenant base. Interior pool, which would be a great amenity for residents. Has meeting spaces, office spaces, or business office areas, as well as a workout area. Next slide. And here's the location. So here is kind of an overview of the property. Don't know much about this particular market, but we do see a large potential for growth in this area, so something worth considering. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide. And let's look at the analytics. So the absorption rate is on the negative side, but population growth is positive. So in some cases, you know, because this is a hospitality asset and it may not be necessarily in a market that is really showing the absorption for multifamily, you're going to see possibly these numbers being skewed. Doesn't mean we're going to trash this deal, but certainly it's going to require some further investigation. Now, if the absorption was negative and the population growth was negative, probably would be something that we would pass on. But the population growth does look positive. The exit price per door looks positive, and the rents are on the lower side, but something worth potentially, you know, possibly considering. We could look at this as being possibly as an extended stay, or we could look at this as potentially RAL, residential assisted living. So I know there's a few individuals on this call that are interested in this space, so something that we can consider. So we definitely don't want to leave any stone unturned when looking at these opportunities. First and foremost, our primary objective is converting from hospitality to multifamily, but we do have other exit strategies that we are able to deploy depending on the particular asset and, of course, the marketing question. Any questions on the key metrics here on the analytics that you see up on the screen? All right, let's go to the next slide.
Steven, I got a quick question. The
Yes,
on the sales price, those are current within the last 90 days or 6 months. The submarket 1 to 3 star market sales price per unit. How old are those comps?
We pull those comps from CoStar as we underwrite these opportunities. So it really comes down to when CoStar updates their data. So I would like to think that they keep that data fairly updated. Obviously, you know, they are selling a pretty expensive service. So I know they do market studies on a regular basis. So I would like to think that that's fairly accurate and up to date.
So the 12-month asking price, sales price per unit is 70,000 versus 93. What metric is that? What does that mean? Do you know?
Well, you know, that could be just the fact that we're going into a bit of a sluggish economy, interest rates basically increasing, cap rates expanding. So that could be indicative of the market that we're currently in. So they could be, you know, that could be that differentiator. It'd be something that we'd have to look into a little deeper, but we just use this more or less as a guiding rod for the underwriting tool that we use to plug in this data. But that's basically what you're seeing there.
A lot of times too, the per unit price on the apartment goes a lot higher than the per unit price hotel.
Very much so. All right, let's go ahead and slide to the next slide.
One question, and I'm sorry, you'd mentioned it. I just want to be clear on it. When you're looking at population growth, was that the 5-year? Because I see on this slide that the 5-year population growth, is that the previous 5 years? And you're looking for an average between 3 and 4% over that 5-year period?
It's not previous, it's population growth in the next 5 years.
In the next 5 years. Okay. So
Yeah,
in the next 5 years.
Okay. We want to see somewhere north of about 3% at a minimum.
Okay. Thank you.
And it breaks it down even further, so you can see population growth based upon generational, kind of statistics. So you see the 20 to 29-year-olds are kind of moving away from this market. But if you also look at the population growth from 40 to 54 and 55 plus, you're seeing a pretty substantial growth there. So this could be a good indication for senior housing or potentially RAL or residential assisted living.
Understood. I appreciate that. Thank you for the breakdown.
My pleasure. And then one other thing you may want to consider when looking at this, if you'll see the inventory on the left, you'll see the number of units, in the 1 to 3 market, the star market. You'll see existing buildings. You'll see the average units per building, but then also you'll see down below, units that are under construction, right? So you see that there's not a lot of new construction happening in this market. So if you have an indication or a situation where you're looking at a market that is still growing positively, but there's not a lot of new construction happening, that's going to do what? That's probably going to actually boost rent growth in most cases, where the actual inverse could occur when you're looking at the inventory and you see a lot of inventory coming online in the next 12 months, but you may see the population growth kind of sliding. So more than likely, you're going to see the rents kind of sliding to kind of follow suit.
To follow up on that, is there a minimum as far as population within the immediate 5 miles or 1 mile submarket? Like, you won't go into any markets with less than 10,000 people, regardless of the growth rate. I'm just trying to understand what that minimum is.
I mean, larger cities are going to have better economic factors. They're going to see more, job growth. One thing I tell my team, when we underwrite these opportunities is, the emerging markets that you are growing exponentially, but not necessarily can see black and white on, any type of analytic. And so that's what we always want to kind of push for, is we want to, find opportunities in markets that are growing exponentially. There's a lot of job growth. And with that, you can, it makes it a lot easier to have that investor conversation, versus the inverse is true, where, if population is sliding, it's a market someone's never heard of before. It's going to be a very difficult conversation when talking to your investors. And so you always, when looking at these opportunities and underwriting a conversion, you want to kind of put your investor cap on and think to yourself, okay, if I had $1 million to place, am I going to place that in a project as an LP in Orlando or in a market that no one's ever heard of before?
Makes perfect sense. Again, thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Sometimes the obvious is not so obvious, but again, this is, most of these projects is a pretty substantial lift, right? We're not just changing out carpets and painting walls. We're adding kitchenettes. We're adding sprinkler systems. We're in some cases having to change out the P-tax. We're going to have to, redo roofs, and we want to be able to justify that CapEx in a market that's growing exponentially. Hence the reason why we love Central Florida. We love, cities like Dallas and Austin, Tempe, Arizona, for example. We're looking at a project. So, obviously you can't buy every hotel and convert it to multifamily. So if you had your choice, you're going to want to be in markets that are growing. So you can literally get on Google, do a search, what are the top 10 markets, that are growing in the United States for 2024. And that's going to be probably a good gauge of where you should basically start hunting. And you really, when you were looking at conversions, it's not a spray and pray. You really want to take your sniper rifle out and actually take your time, look at a project really closely, get an idea of the market, know what's going on as far as population growth and the absorption of units. Then, of course, the exit price, right? Is it 3 to 4x greater than the price per key on that purchase? If not, you're going to have a hard time justifying the amount of money going in for the CapEx. And then most importantly, are the rents weak or are the rents strong, right? Because we're all looking to buy cash flowing assets, right? We're looking to build our portfolios, and we want to do so in markets that are growing exponentially. And I just got a question from the audience. What markets, submarkets are you looking for hotel conversions? Just to kind of further explain, we really like Central Florida. We want to stay away from the coast, not necessarily by default, but just because the insurance rates have grown exponentially along the coast in the last 12 to 18 months. Doesn't mean we won't look at a hotel to be converted to multifamily, but as long as the cost basis justifies the amount of cost that will go into not only the conversion, but operationally speaking, the insurance, right? We
One of
also
the
like.
things, sorry, I was just going to interject there. One of the things I've noticed too about coastal cities, especially in like the Gulf cities, is that the high cost of insurance combined with the high purchase price due to the fact that these are more, touristy areas, generally prove to cause a lack of feasibility for a lot of these properties. This is why in cities like Miami or Tampa or Houston, even if you get closer to like Pasadena or like those, Galveston, it's very difficult to find a property where your insurance costs and then just your purchase price being high does not significantly affect the feasibility of the deal. Because I mean, sometimes you can get as high as $2,000 per unit on insurance for multifamily, that you're underwriting on the back end. Now, obviously, you're not paying that right up front because you're starting with a hotel and then eventually getting it as an apartment complex, so it phases up. But again, it's like just the sheer nightmare and unforeseen conditions with these coastal cities can make a huge problem when it comes to an insurance, especially in Florida, where there are more hurricanes than anywhere else, as it seems like. So that's definitely a huge consideration factor.
Yeah, we were looking at a hotel in Miami, and the insurance literally 2.5x from the year previous. So that literally killed the deal. And I got another question from the audience. Ace, do you guys underwrite vacant office buildings that can be converted multifamily? All the time. So the team and I just put a couple of office complexes under contract to be converted to multifamily. It's a different underwriting tool. We have individuals on my team that specialize on that space. And when we have opportunities, we underwrite them. So the answer to your question, Ace, is absolutely yes. We are actually partnered with one of the largest office to multifamily converters in the country. Some of you may know Kenny Wolf. He's got 13 projects currently in the works. He's got over $1 billion assets under management. So we've recently partnered with him on a couple of office to multifamily conversions. And by leveraging his expertise, it makes it a lot easier to raise capital. So the answer to your question is yes. Next slide. Let's look at the rent comps. So the rent comps here in Omaha, Nebraska, they're light. So, but not necessarily deal killing light. As you can see, these hotel suites, again, are on average about 500 square feet. So if you look at, say, the top 3 to 5 units, they're all around 480 to 481. So they're renting at about $285 a square foot, or $1,100 to $1,300 a month. So not too shabby. So certainly will help our underwriting. Next slide. And here's the underwriting. So they are asking $7 million. We have it under LOI for $5 million. We're underwriting these apartments at $1,145 per month per unit. Again, these are an average of 500 square feet, 186 doors. Great opportunity. We'll keep you appraised on how this develops, but you can see the net profit on this conversion with a 28.3 IRR, 2.3x on the equity multiplier, and we're underwriting this conversion at a 9 cap with an exit summary of $17.5 million in 63 months at $94,000 per door. Any questions on the underwriting on this deal? And before we wrap up this call,
can you hear me?
Anton, yes, sir.
Yeah, so on here, I see you say holding period post opening. Do you have the length of time that you typically spend on getting these things up and running?
Yeah, so it takes typically anywhere from 9 to 15 months for the conversion or the CapEx to convert these hotel rooms into micro studio apartments. The lease up is going to be somewhere between 6 months to a year. So we typically will buy this with a bridge loan, 2-year bridge with say 2 6-month extensions. And then we'll hold anywhere between 3 to 5 years post bridge refinance.
Thanks.
Now, I just wanted to add to that too. There's other types of loan products that we can get that are a lot more attractive from a time frame perspective, but it really just boils down to what the interest rates are. The debt market is absolutely crazy right now, and just so you guys understand, we're underwriting a lot of these deals with the assumption of 10% interest rate. It can be anywhere from 8 to 12, just depending on whether or not you're taking on a recourse loan or a non-recourse loan, who your key principal sponsor is. We're pretty fortunate to have several individuals on our team like Kenny Wolf, Ethan Gow, and Stephen Michael, who all have liquidity and balance sheets to qualify us for loan products that are much more attractive than the average operators who have never done this before. But, it's definitely something to consider when you're underwriting these deals, is that the interest rates are going to be significantly higher, especially for a development project, but more than that, a type of development project that is unknown to a lot of lenders, right? If you shop this to 150 banks, maybe 30 of which will come back and say, hey, let's bite at this, of which maybe 5 will actually end up giving you a term sheet. So it's a much different type of project than the traditional multifamily value add or any other asset class for that matter.
And I think Ace, you had a question on cap rate. Christina, could you pull up the analytics back up maybe 3 slides to the analytics on this deal? And we can show, the current cap rate in this market is around 7%. So we like to stress our deals and have an exit cap to be at least a point or 2 greater than the current cap rate. Because the way interest rates are kind of, increasing, cap rates are expanding. We want to stress our deals to kind of reflect that market that we're currently in. So we will stress our deals and actually increase the exit cap greater than the current cap. Nick, I know we're, had done a lot of talking. Do you have any retail to self-storage or any self-storage deals you'd like to give us some updates on? I think you're still on the call.
I'm still here. I don't have any, I won't go through the deck today for sake of time, to respect everyone. Do you have some cool updates on a couple of projects? North Augusta, that we recently put under contract, we are moving forward with the buyout of the land lease. We've kind of toggled back and forth between how to pursue this asset, particularly because it's very unique in the sense that there's a 52-year term at a very low cost basis for the land, with a former Kmart of 102,000 square feet and 9 acres of pavement associated with it. So our original attempt was to have the lease terms assigned to us at $900 a month or $10,800 a year. I just spoke with the leasee today and initiated a conversation with them and the leaseor to buy out the land lease in addition to the building. We were able to get creative with the underwriting, expand out some of the revenue streams, particularly around vehicle storage on this property, to absorb the additional cost.
If I can get you to pause just a second, Christina, can you pull the North Augusta property up on the screen? I know we all like to look at pictures, and so it'd be nice to kind of visually see what we're talking about. If Christina, if you can pull that up on the screen, go ahead. Nick, continue with your conversation while she pulls up that presentation.
Yeah,
that we did
I appreciate that. I'm mobile right now.
I figured as much.
Christina. Yep. So really awesome property, textbook conversion. I know Stephen earlier on the call mentioned what type of retail out there. Look at Kmart is just an easy example. Toys R Us would be another one. A lot of these companies went bankrupt, over a decade ago. So there's still some of those assets trading in the market, but use your creative lenses to look at what the physical structure, the lot size looks like, and find other comparable assets. There's plenty of smaller grocery stores that are going out of business or relocating, where this is a prime opportunity to buy up this type of asset as well. But North Augusta would be textbook because of the ability to not only capture over 100,000 square feet of interior self-storage, but in addition to that, 9 paved acres that we can easily put boat and RV storage on, both canopied and uncovered. So looking forward to getting this one under construction and being a very profitable, thriving self-storage boat and RV business for us. The other update we have is on close to our home here in El Dorado Hills, a suburb of Sacramento. 12 acres of raw land that will be developed into self-storage. So we also look at that space as well. Because when you find very affluent markets with great analytics and economic factors, it's easy just to start with a blank canvas, this being the raw land. Big picture on that is last week, speaking with the city planner, we were able to identify a conditional use permit for boat and RV storage when the primary use is self-storage. This opened up a wide lane of opportunities for us and at about 40% additional revenue and value to the project by being able to include this. Not to mention making us a differentiator in the market where no other adjacent self-storage facility is offering boat and RV. This will be a beautiful Class A facility, has some of the highest rates for rental spaces, both for boat, RV, and self-storage, as well as a median household income of $140,000 per year. So 2 exciting projects that we're moving to contract on right now. We're just finishing up all the details of the terms, and we'll be looking to add as many more as possible to our inventory. Just like with the hospitality multifamily conversions, if you guys have retail buildings that you want to be assessed, if you want to learn more about how to scout these type of assets, please reach out to Christina. Her email is in the chat. We've had several of our attendees on these calls reach out to us and work with us closely. Manpreet being probably one of the best examples, as he's submitted over 20 projects to us. We've sent out 4 LOIs, and we continue to do so weekly. Just based on some of the properties he's found, and he's got a keen eye for it.
Great, thanks, Nick. I appreciate the updates, and we're actually kind of going through the slides for the North Augusta property and just kind of presenting the overall pitch deck so everyone can kind of get an idea of what a retail to self-storage conversion looks like, not only physically but economically, as well as the returns. On the screen right now is the market rate analysis and what you can actually hope to achieve on renting these actual units. What's nice about self-storage is you never have to deal with a plugged up toilet or a disgruntled tenant, right? So these are kind of units that are cash flowing and literally like an ATM spitting out cash every month. And it's even better when you can get in at a very low cost basis and buy a distressed retail big box store that's gone out of business and go in and just literally convert the interior space, white wall the property, get in there and actually include and actually build out these storage units and create this climate controlled self-storage facility. Then when we're complete, it's worth literally 5x more than what we bought it for. Well, this wraps up our call. We like to keep these calls under 60 minutes. Just to be conscientious of everyone's time. I appreciate everyone's participation and joining the call. We are growing our network. So if you'd like to jump on our team and become a junior acquisitions manager, send out your contact information and email address. We're looking to grow. There's markets that we are not currently in that we want to get in. So we need individuals like yourself to kind of champion that effort. And of course, if you have any questions of us, you have my contact information as well as the team's contact information. We do these calls every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific. We're looking to kind of educate and grow. And the only way we do so is networking with each and every one of you. I appreciate everyone's participation and joining today's call. Be good, be healthy, take care of everyone, and let's connect next week. Thanks for a nice time. You guys have a great day. Bye, everyone.
All right, thanks guys.
Bye. Have a good one.